This is Podcast Theory.
Helps if I add myself to the stage. Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome to Podcast Theory Live. I am your host, Jason Sircone. It is Wednesday, July 10th, and I guess I'm a little discombobulated because I'm doing this show at night. Got to be on stage in order to communicate with you beautiful people. So today I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about something that I feel holds many people back, but if it doesn't hold them back, it causes them to have some issues when they are podcasting. And that's the element of perfection. And we get very hung up on this in a lot of ways. And this transcends podcasting, of course. In our lives, of course, we want everything to be perfect, knowing full well that you can't make anything perfect. As the great Tin Cup McAvoy says in the movie Tin Cup, perfection is unattainable. But when it comes to podcasting, we have this belief in our mind that we can make things perfect. And the only way to present ourselves to our audience is from behind this veil of perfection. I think it's absolutely crazy. This is something that I've learned. And the reason why I wanted to cover this subject today is because this stems from a conversation that we were having in our Empowered Podcasting morning chat earlier this week. And if you're not a part of that yet, you really should check it out. Every morning, 7 a.m., Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time. Join us on Clubhouse. Look for the Empowered Podcasting group, and you'll find the Podcasting Morning Chat. Conversation's been very lively in that group. And earlier this week, we were talking about finding your voice. And the act of finding your voice, all of the things that you need to do when that's happening, including bringing your authentic self to the mic, not trying to be somebody else, putting in the practice swings, putting in the repetitions. That's the only way you're going to develop a skill set that allows you to keep moving forward on the mic, on the camera, in the podcasting space as a whole. And one of the big things that I brought up was something that I learned from doing these live streams. And this is one of the big reasons that I keep leaning into live streaming so heavily, is because it's helped me get beyond this perfectionism. And I don't think that I've ever had it to the degree that it's like borderline psychosis, but this is why I feel it's just such a plague in podcasting and even other things that you may want to do, because to me, it just puts you in this mindset that I can't bring myself out from behind the curtain unless everything falls into place. Everything is perfect. I've learned some hard lessons in my life about this subject, some very recently, trying to achieve perfection before making the right moves. It hurts. Sometimes you have to live with those decisions and live with those actions and try to make the most of them going forward, or make the most of what you've done going forward. But in regards to podcasting, I believe a lot of people that may be aspiring podcasters or just getting started and getting out of the gates may feel that perfectionism needs to be what takes center stage, or else they're just not going to get over with their target audience. When in reality, it's the exact opposite, because we aren't always looking for the most perfect thing. In my opinion, the most perfect thing in the world is sometimes very, very boring. But there's a lot of value in rawness. There's a lot of value in being authentic and bringing your actual voice and screwing up a little bit. Hell, look at this. We're 4 minutes into this live stream this evening. And I started off the whole show with myself off the stage. I forgot to click the button to move me onto the stage so I was on camera. Whatever, it is what it is. It was a mistake. Can't go back and change it. Leaning into live streaming is helping me embrace all of these imperfections and loving every second of it, because it makes my voice feel more authentic. The message I'm delivering to you in the audience is much more real. And there's a lot less work to do when it comes to editing and cutting stuff out. When we were talking about this in our group, I brought up the story of this video series that I put together earlier this week. And I'll be rolling that out and talking about that more here on the show in the upcoming days. I'll probably devote a full episode to talking about this new video series that I'm releasing. It's actually available now. If you do want to check it out, jump over to bombtrackmedia.com/paradigm and you can check it out now. But I will be talking about it more in the future. Putting this series together, this is what happened. Again, me fully embracing this live stream environment. I've been doing this nearly every day of the week. And if it hasn't been every day yet, I'm getting very close to making this a 7-day-a-week thing because I am crazy like that. In all seriousness, it's because I am obsessed. I'm loving the content creation side of this and getting the opportunity to go live, connect with you in the audience, share stories, share thoughts in this live environment. I'm loving every second of it. But when I sat down to do this live series, that was pre-recorded. Now, of course, over the years, I've done many, many videos and audio sessions in a pre-recorded environment. But what I've learned about myself in doing things in a pre-recorded environment, I get in my own head. And I try to do everything with absolute perfection. And I wasn't even out of the intro of that show, of this series, of the very first video I did. And I think I fumbled over my words 5 times and I stopped myself and I started over. And then I stopped myself again and I started over. And finally, after the 5th time, I don't remember the exact number, around the 5th time, I stopped myself again. And I said, you know what? You got to get out of your own head. And the only way that you're going to do that right now is to pretend that you are recording this live. So I shifted my mindset and I made like the recording that I was doing was live, much like I'm doing right now. And everything changed. Now, did I get through the whole thing without a couple flubs? Of course not. But what you're getting from this video series is a very authentic product. It wasn't something that I had to go through and edit the hell out of. And that's something that I've done in the past. And I thought about this and just said, wow, I spent so much time editing projects, editing videos, making them sound 100% pristine, when in reality, just going from this authentic side of things was probably enough to serve the purpose. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that as a podcast editor, if you're a creator, if you're a producer, that you leave all the ums and the uhs and the flubs and the weird transitions and the gaffes and the heavy breathing and everything that would potentially ruin a listener experience. You don't leave that in. You still have to do your job, or you have to fire up the AI engines to do the job for you. But nevertheless, you have to make sure that you're giving your audience something that does sound good. But when you're building a skill set to where you can do this live type of recording, or if it's in a pre-recorded environment, you get into your own head that it is like a live recording. Sometimes the product that comes from that ends up being everything that you wanted it to be. So when I went back and I watched that live series, once I got done with it and did the basic editing and added in some transitions and things like that, I was, not to toot my own horn, but very impressed with how things turned out. And the reason why was because that whole production ended up being nothing more than an authentic, just overall, what's the word I'm looking for? It ended up being an authentic presentation with a lot of the thoughts that I've had inside that I wanted to get out. I've had a lot on my mind in regards to podcast production and some of the shitty advice that many gurus are giving aspiring podcasters and seasoned podcasters too, about what they need to do to succeed in this space. It's terrible. That's why I wanted to go live. I'm not going to go live, but I wanted to put that series out for podcasters, new and old, to consume, because I firmly believe we need a new narrative. When you've got people saying you need to produce 1 episode, 2 episodes, 3 episodes a week, or you're not going to be successful, yet we hear statistics like 90% of podcasts don't get beyond 3 episodes, that to me is a major disconnect. And we need to start thinking about things differently. So that's what goes into that video series. And I feel like I'm already diving into that prematurely because that wasn't the object of tonight's conversation. What I wanted to talk about today, obviously, was putting that together helped me realize that the live environment mentality makes for a very authentic product, and it can make your life so much easier because now you're not putting a ton of pressure on yourself to make things perfect. Something you need to understand when you're starting a podcast brand new from scratch, maybe you've never done this before. Perhaps you've got some nerves inside wondering, what are people going to think? Am I going to have enough to say? How am I going to get through this? What is going to happen when this content comes together? If you have these questions inside, don't worry. Most new podcasters do. Hell, a lot of seasoned podcasters will still ask themselves those questions. Believe me, sometimes I do the exact same thing. But in the very beginning, what you need to remember is that you're just getting started. You're developing your skill set while you're developing an audience at the same time. So those imperfections that may be preventing you from getting started are being heard by next to nobody. Usually it's the people in your inner circle. But as you start to get better, that starts to project. And now more people start to find your show and they're hearing your improvements. They're hearing the new voice that you've developed because you've put in the reps. So don't get hung up on trying to make everything perfect because, for one, it's never going to happen. No matter what you do and for how long you do this, you're never going to do it 100% perfect. But if it's holding you back from even getting started, that's a shame because you have a story to tell. You have a message to deliver. You want to put yourself out there in a way that allows the right people to hear that message. And it doesn't matter if you are 100% perfect. Listeners that gravitate to you and get emotionally invested in your content are not doing it because it's perfect. They're doing it because they share a belief in your subject matter, just like you. And the more you get yourself inclined to put that content out there in a very raw, very natural type of way. Here I am. I guess I'm endorsing live streaming for you right now. But the more you start to put that content out there, the more connections you're going to make with your audience. And that's going to lead to them recommending your content to others. And that's where the exponential growth kicks in. And that's how your podcast will grow. So if perfection is on your mind and you're worried that doing this perfectly is the only way to fly, get that thought out of your head right now. Start recording, start developing your voice, start putting in the practice swings, and you're going to go very far in the space as long as you realize that perfection is unattainable and the commitment that you need to succeed just requires you turning on the mic and taking some practice swings because you're going to get better naturally and you're going to make that connection with your audience that you're looking for. So that is going to wrap up this installment of Podcast Theory Live. I'm coming at you every day, Monday through Friday, and I'm starting to hone in on the exact time of day that I'm going to be doing these live streams. Looks like it's going to be more in the evening, but in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a time locked in each day, Monday through Friday, for when you can join me live, and I'll be able to share the schedule with you at the start of each week so you know exactly when to join me. But in the meantime, here on YouTube, be sure you're subscribed and click the bell. That way you'll get a notification when I go live so you don't miss an episode. Please don't be a dick about this. My name is Jason Sircone, and I'm going to sign off on this installment of Pod Theory Pod Theory Live. Until our paths cross again, good talk. I will see you out there.